The second book of Samuel, session 27. In session 26, we saw how David sends back Hushai, and he tells him, don't stress, you've got Zadok with him, and the two sons, Ahimaaz and Jonathan. And I want you to go and defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. And I'm just wondering, will we be willing, if Yah sends us on missions, while we are in the wilderness, we are passing over, we're leaving the city, we're leaving Babylon and the Antichrist system. We have righteousness, our righteous Father with us. He makes haste with his anger, but with his gift. He's great. He brings us word. Like Zadok must send word to David. He brings us word, but he also has missions for us to do in this. He brings us word, but he also has missions for us to do in this end day journey. Will we in the end days be willing if Yah sends us on a mission, like David is sending Hushai on a mission, to defeat the counsel of my brother the fool, who's now working for the false father of peace, Ahithophel working for Absalom. So now we tackle chapter 16. Absalom enters Jerusalem, and immediately it makes me think of how the Antichrist will enter Jerusalem triumphantly, as if he's the real Messiah. And all the Christians and the Catholics and the Jews and the Muslims will all look at this Messiah because he will fit the description and the bill for each one of these religions, because all the world will follow after him. And he will enter Jerusalem triumphantly and take over the top of the hill. Behold, Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a couple of asses saddled, and upon them 200 loaves of bread. Always amazing how everything is 2 or 20 or 200 or 2,000. Prophetically, this 2,000 years until, from his first coming to his second. And 100 bunches of raisins and 100 of summer fruits and a bottle of wine. Oh, what a feast for the remnant. What a feast for us in the wilderness. God gave us a feast when we left Egypt and we were wandering thirsty and hungry through the desert. And he gave us a feast, fresh water from the rock of our salvation, hit with the staff of Moses. Yeshua hit and stricken for us, and the living water flows out. Yeshua, the manna that fell from heaven. What a feast God gave us in the wilderness. What a feast David and his people are getting out of the hand of Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth. And we've met Mephibosheth before. What a feast for the remnant, for those end day saints who are going through tribulation and persecution and difficult Mitzrayim, Egyptian times, where the pressing and the testing of the bride is happening. What a feast God has given us if we follow him and we pass over and we become Hebrew and we obey him and we are not scared of our own lives. We might run away out of the city. God says, come out of her, my people, come out of Babylon anyway. But we're not scared to die. We are willing, even if they catch us here in the wilderness. Come on, Amalekites. Come on, you hyenas. We will stand up against you because our God is with us. And we see another feast. The times are difficult. In chapter 17, David is going through difficult days. And David arose in verse 22 of chapter 17, and he and all the people passed over the Jordan, the promised land of reverse. Because Jerusalem has fallen to the Antichrist, but Yahuwah is with us, and he will bring the scattered remnant back. And then we see in verse 23, Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed. Yes, Hushai, my father hastes. There's a hasting, there's an excellence in the work that we are willing to do. And Ahithophel, the counselors, the foolish counselors of this world who counsel the Antichrist, they will see that they've just been used, like Satan always does. After he sucks the blood out of you, he throws you away like a dry orange after he sucked out the juice. And Ahithophel hangs himself. But then we see in verse 28, They brought him beds and barley and flour and parched corn and beans and lentils and parched pulse and honey and butter and sheep and cheese. Oh, wow. And they brought this for the people that were with him to eat, because the people is hungry, they weary, and they are thirsty in the wilderness. But God provides for his people in the wilderness. He provided for Israel in the wilderness. He provided for Elijah in the wilderness. Remember, the crows brought him food. The angel baked him cakes. Oh, he provided. Here he provides feast after feast for his remnant that is thirsty and hungry and wandering around in the wilderness because they don't want to be part of the Antichrist system. All right, and this is now the servant Ziba from Mephibosheth. We learned about Mephibosheth and Ziba in 2 Samuel 9, a couple of sessions away. And we saw how Ziba also helped David to find a remnant from the house of Jonathan, because David is a man of his word. And he promised Jonathan that he will look after any of his seed that is remaining. And here Ziba is helping David find Mephibosheth. And the name of Mephibosheth in the Hebrew is to break the shameful thing. It says in the Hebrew, a dispeller of shame, that is Baal, Mephibosheth. And it comes from Pa'ah, which means to puff, to blow away, or to scatter into corners. Pa'ah Boshet. And Boshet is shame, the feeling or the implication of shame, the confusion of an idol, a shameful thing. So Mephibosheth, Pa'ah, breaks and scatters the shameful thing. And now Mephibosheth is sending feast to David and his people in the wilderness. So back to chapter 16. And the king said unto Ziba, what means you by this? And Ziba said, these asses are for the king's household to ride on, because they are walking on their feet. You know, these guys didn't have Jordan or Nike shoes and whatever. So their feet were hurting. And David is the king and he's walking with his feet. He even went up bare feet upon Mount Olive, the Olivet Mount. And here Ziba is bringing donkeys for them to ride on. How beautiful is that? And the bread and the summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine, so that, and this is important to underline, so that such as be faint in the wilderness may drink, such as become hungry and thirsty, dismayed, hopeless in the wilderness, be revived, have their hope revived. Let them see there's light in the end of the tunnel. I'm here to bring good news to those who are thirsty, hungry, and hopeless. And the king said, where is your master's son? And Ziba said unto the king, behold, he abides in Jerusalem. For he said, today shall the house of Israel restore me the kingdom of my father. Oh, here we have a problem. Don't we have a problem? Let's see what happens. Because here we've got Mephibosheth. And what he's saying sounds like he's turning against David. So he's looking after David. He's supposed to dispel the shameful thing. David looked for him. He brought him into his house. He let him eat at his table. He looked after him as he promised Jonathan. But here the friend is turning against David. Because Mephibosheth thinks maybe, you know, he's the only remnant left of the royal household of King Saul through the line of Jonathan. And he says, maybe today, I don't know, the kingdom of my father Jonathan will be given back to me. Maybe I'll become king. Oh, how can he do this? Then said the king to Ziba, behold, your are all that pertains unto Mephibosheth. And Ziba said, I humbly beseech you that I may find grace in your sight, my lord, O king. So here I think Ziba is deciding to not go back to Mephibosheth, but to stay and remain with David. And it sounds like David is saying everything that he gave to Mephibosheth, he's now going to give to Ziba, because David knows He's going to go back. He will return to Israel, to Jerusalem, and then he'll be in charge again, out as the victor and not Mephibosheth. And when David came to Bahurim, behold, there came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. He came forth, and he cursed still as he came. Okay, so here we've got something very interesting happening. This man, Shimei, he cast stones at David and all the servants of King David. And all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. So this guy is not ashamed. He's not scared. He runs inside this crowd that is surrounding David. All the mighty men of David is on his left and on his right. And he's like a crazy man, running through the crowd, throwing them with stones and cursing them. And thus said Shimei when he cursed, come out, you bloody man. We've learned so much of the sons of Belial, the sons of the wicked one, Belial. And here, Shimei is calling David a son of Belial. How many times in your life have you been cursed out as a cult follower, or you are confused, you are rejecting Jesus Christ and you are now following the Talmudic, satanic, demonic Torah of the Jews, and you are from the synagogue of Satan. How many times have you been cursed out? You are the beloved. You are following the covenant. You don't want to be mixed with a Babylonian Absalom Antichrist system. But the people throw stones at you. You want to bring them the truth. You want to show them the deception and the lies. But you are thrown with stones during Christmas, Easter, and Sunday services. The Lord hath returned upon you all the blood of the Lord hath returned upon you all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you are now reigning. And Yahuwah has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom your son. Behold, you, David, are taken into mischief, because you are a bloody man. We've got bloody or blarry as a curse word, even in Afrikaans. Jy's 'n bloody man. But that bloody comes from bloody. You are a bloody man. You've got the blood of Saul on your hands. I'm sorry? Did David kill Saul? Did David kill Jonathan? I don't think so, Shimei. I think you've got the story all wrong here. But of course, the house of King David, or the kingdom of David, the household of Saul, is really making David the culprit to kill David because he was afraid that David was going to take over the kingdom. We've gone through that verse by verse and the intense of prophecy behind all that. But here the world who looks with worldly eyes, even in our days, they look upon you. You are the beloved. You are David. But look at you. You are struggling. You cannot buy and sell because you don't have the mark of the beast. You are not loved by the world or your family or your friends, who are all marked by the beast, who doesn't want to accept the truth of the covenant and return to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are not going through an easy life. You are in the wilderness. You are running away. You are hiding. You're not in the city. You're not on your throne. You are not ruling and reigning with Christ in heavenly places. You look like you are hungry, thirsty, faint, desolate. Maybe you even seem a bit haze. And the world casts stones upon you and they curse you. The Bible says they will think they do God a favor when they persecute you and deliver you over to the governments. Doesn't Joshua warn us of this? Of how our own brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers will turn against us in the end days when we stand for his name. Because they're looking with human eyes, they're looking with fleshly eyes. And if we are going to do the same mistake, because the Bible says we don't walk by sight, we walk by faith. We don't walk in the flesh, we walk in the spirit. And in faith and in the spirit, we know the end from the beginning. Although it might mean we are temporarily in a wilderness journey, We know the end. We know the tabernacle and Zadok is waiting for us in Jerusalem. We know God will restore us back. Is waiting for us in Jerusalem. We know God will restore us back. He will revive us. He will bring us back over the Jordan River. He will take us into the promised land. He will give us the crown of victory and the reward for our loyalty as servants to Him. Good and faithful servant. We are not scared for the wilderness or to die. Those who want to keep their lives will lose it, but those who are willing to lose their lives for my sake will find it. So we mustn't look like the world with worldly eyes. Although the evidence, fear is the false evidence appearing real. We are looking at the evidence in the world. We are looking at the tribulation, the persecution. We are looking at the fact that we might go through the wilderness hungry and thirsty because we cannot buy and sell in the end. We are looking at all these things. But we must not look like Shimei with the fleshly eyes at the evidence in front of. If Joseph looked at the evidence, I'm sitting in prison, I'm innocent. God, what happened to all your promises? What happened to the dreams you gave me? If we're going to, maybe like Yeshua, look at the evidence and the disciples, oh, there is hanging, he's dying on the execution stake. That is looking at with fleshly eyes. Yeshua gave them the prophecies, I'm going to be raised after 3 days. But all they looked at was what they could see right in front of their eyes at the moment. When you stand too close to something and you focus only on that, like tunnel vision, you only focus on what you can see right in front of your face right now, you're going to lose the perspective of the bigger picture. Stand back. Look at the end from the beginning. God declares the end from the beginning. He gave us verse by verse, word by word, since let's not let the stones and the curses that is cast our way get us down or get us under, because that's not true. That is temporarily what we are going through and enduring. But we will endure to the end because we know the end from the beginning. We're not going to accept this as our end, because our fleshly body's ending is not the end. We dying of hunger and thirst is not the end. Israel said, let's go back to Egypt. At least there we had fish and leeks and garlic and onions, blah, 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 blah. And they wanted to turn back because they were looking only at the short-term survival. Let us not make that mistake, my brothers and sisters. All right, so what does this Shemai represent? In the Hebrew, what does this Shemai represent? In the Hebrew, it's got the meaning of famous. Shimi, famous. And of course, the root word is Shema, because it's about something heard. But this Shimi is about a rumor, sound, an announcement, a speech, a report, or tidings, loud speaking, like a rumor, an announcement, a report, a famous word that is heard, shimi. This world hears the popular reports from the media and from the rulers of the world that gives an rumor and spreads the false loud speech that proclaims and announces to all God's people. Look at the people who don't follow the Antichrist. Look at them. They are running like dogs away. They are hiding in the wilderness. We are ruling. Here's your Messiah sitting in Jerusalem on the throne of God, in the temple of God, pretending to be, well, not pretending, he is God. Look at him. There's the Antichrist. You all recognized him, King Charles, or whoever you think it is. Here is your true Messiah, the one who's like Christ. Look at the people who think they are following the true God. They are few in numbers. They are not enough to even make a dent. Follow us. We have the truth, the false prophet says. So here Shimei is representing the media of the world, isn't he? Absolutely astonishing. And interesting, he's from the son of Gera, meaning of grain, like a kernel, round as if it's scraped, a coin or a small weight. I don't really know what that means. I'm sure there's absolute amazing meaning in that. So here we've got blatant opposition, a man of renown, a man of reporting, but he's reporting false words. He's reporting what the world thinks is true. They're looking with worldly eyes and they are reporting and announcing to all the audiences to hear what they think the truth is. But the truth is what God says the truth is. And God said, David, you will die of old age. You will sit on the throne, and your seed will sit on the throne forever. So obviously, this is not the truth in God's eyes. But of course, with our natural vision, with our eyes, we can see. Because what? See natural vision. With our eyes, we can see. Because what? Seeing is believing, nay, but not with God. With God, believing is seeing. Because when you believe God, you don't just believe in God, you believe every word He says. Then you will see the end from the beginning. And then this conspiracy and this truth of the world is not your truth. Then said Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, unto the king, why should this dead dog, I love it. Jy's 'n hond man, you're a dog, and you dead. You smell like a rotting dead corpse of a dog. Why will you allow this dead dog to curse my lord the king? Let me go over, I pray. Let me just chop off his head, as if he's a flea. I want to take off his head. I'm so sick and tired of the lies and the cursing and the spewing of his incorrect words, of his false reports, of the rumors that he is spreading. I'm so sick to hear it. I just want to chop off his head so his mouth can be shut. And the king said, what have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? Let him curse, because Yahuwah hath said unto him, curse David. Who then shall say, what are you doing? So what are we to do in these end days? Oh, here comes the difficult passages, guys. Here comes David, the beloved's example. Here comes what Yeshua, our beloved, has told us to do. Oh, difficult. I know. Love your enemy. When they hate you, love them back. When they curse you, bless them back. Because why? For the bond servant, the Torah says, yes, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But for the bond servant who is redeemed and sold out to his master will take revenge. The bond servant will run to his master, grab onto his master's mantle or tzitzit, or the corners of his garment, hide under the wings of his master. And the Son of Righteousness, the Master of Zadok, Tzaddikim righteousness, will rise, and he will trample the enemies until his robe is dipped in blood. And he will trample the enemies until his robe is dipped in blood. Let us not take up the sword now, Peter. The time is not now, Peter, in the Garden of Gethsemane, when my tribulation, my persecution, my suffering has to start. Now is not the time, Peter. Put away your sword. Those who lift up the sword will die by the sword. And he put back the ear of the servant of the high priest. But Joshua said, sell something, I can't remember what, and buy a sword, because there will be a time to take up the sword, but we have to be led by the Ruach in the wilderness to know when to keep quiet. when to be wise like a dove and subtle as a serpent, when to not fight back, when to keep quiet and let God bring the truth out into the light. Let us trust him. Life. Absalom, who came forth out of my body, he is looking to take my life and kill me. How much more now may this Benjamite do? Let him alone. This Benjamite, Shimei, the son of Gera, from the tribe of Benjamin. You know, remember Benjamin and Judah lived together in Jerusalem. So David says, Absalom wants to kill me anyway. Let this Benjamite come and try to kill me. Leave him, let him curse, for the Lord hath allowed this. Why will Yahuwah allow us the tribulation, the persecution, the cursing, the stones that is being thrown to us? Didn't Yeshua say, in this world you'll be persecuted? If they persecuted me, they will persecute you. But when you stand up for me, I will stand up for you. We have trouble, yes, to allow Yeshua to go through what he went through. So according to Daniel 11, my second or third or maybe first most favorite passage together with Deuteronomy 4, that says tribulation will make you and wash you white like a bride. Deuteronomy 4 says, in the end days, in your tribulation, you will remember my voice and return to me. So God is allowing the testing and the washing of the bride. Take a pen and underline verse 12. It may be that Yahuwah will look upon my affliction, and that Yahuwah will requite or repay me. He will give me back something good for this bad cursing this day. Maybe not now, maybe today specifically. I will not be rewarded. I will not be recognized. I will not be revenged. I will not be rewarded. I will not be recognized. I will not be revenged. Maybe not today, but soon. God will look upon my affliction. He will look upon my steadfastness. He will look upon my endurance, and He will repay me good for evil. He will reward me according to my works, as Yeshua said a million times. Let me prove this with two more witnesses. Romans 12, as you know, is all about sacrificing yourself, giving yourself as a living sacrifice. We've just seen how this is going to happen in the end days. But listen to what Paul says in verse 19 of Romans 12. Dearly beloved. What is he saying in the Hebrew? Dearly David. Beloved David, nay. Don't avenge yourself, David, to wrath. Rather give place unto God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, says Yahuwah. I will repay, says Yahuwah. So here, it's almost like Paul is speaking directly to David when he says beloved, isn't it? How amazing is that? He says in verse 20, therefore, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him drink. For if you do this, you will heap coals of fire on his head. You will heap the burning ruach that came down in Acts 2 like a flame on the head of these enemies. And maybe God will allow the ruach to work with them when you repay them good for evil. Romans 12:21. Do not be overcome by evil, but you need to overcome evil with good. What an amazing lesson. How beautifully Paul is speaking to David, the beloved. How beautifully Paul is speaking to us. My second witness for this is in my beautiful, beautiful book of Debarim, the words of Abba Dabar. He says in Deuteronomy 32:35, to me belongs vengeance. To me belong the recompense, the repayment. Their foot, Shimei's foot, I apologize, Shimei and Absalom and Achithophel, their foot will slide in due time. Don't you worry. Their time will come. Psalm 2 says, on the day that God decides now is the time, he will stand up and take vengeance. For the day of their calamity is close. Don't worry. And the things that shall come upon them will come quickly. For the Lord Yahuwah will judge his people. God repent himself for his servants. He will return. He will teshuvah for his servants. He will come back for his servants. When he sees that his servants' power or strength is gone, where he sees there is none of them left, he will come. He will avenge him on his people's or for his people's sakes, and he will judge and he will take vengeance on our enemies. What a beautiful promise. Let's decide to believe God. We've got both Old and New Testament witnessing for this. Let's decide to believe him. Let's be like David. Let's trust Yahuwah. It may be that the Lord will look upon mine affliction, and Yahuwah will repay me good for his good. Let us say, it may be that Yahuwah will see what we are going through under this world's governments and media and false prophets. And let us remember that he promised he will take vengeance on our sakes. Let us follow Paul and Yeshua's examples and teaching to love our enemies. But also, if he sends us on missions like he did with Hushai, we can even work cleverly, cunningly under our enemies, making them think that we are not out for vengeance against them. We will see this in verse 18, but we will get that. We will get to that in the next session. May you be strong. May you enjoy a feast when you are thirsty and hungry and weary in the wilderness. May you eat of the heaven will provide for his end day remnant, beloved.